Well, welcome back to the Chiropractic Podcast, and I'm super excited to be able to be here with you, Dr. Justin.
As am I.
I think we've got a fun but very relevant topic.
Absolutely.
For chiropractors that are in the field. You've got full-time practice, as do I, and this topic that we're going to get into today is very real, like I said, and I feel like it's a topic that many of us have experienced or are currently experiencing when in private practice. So that topic being burnout, or are we just out of an adjustment?
True.
Right? And so let's get into that a little bit. When we're in private practice, right? How many years have you been in practice? Remind me, you and your wife?
Coming up at the end, 12. We're in our 11th year, so coming up on our 12th birthday.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. And we've been in practice 20 this year. And so both of us have had enough clinic time to have run across burnout, right?
Yeah.
Life happens.
And I would say, you're never immune to it. Don't for a second think that, I've got everything so well put together that, I'm never going to experience that, because I've had it several times through my career.
Yep. And if we don't keep ourselves in check properly and organize and orchestrate life appropriately for ourselves, it's prone to happen over and over and over, right?
Absolutely.
Or it certainly could. As clinicians running practice, you have that challenge, if you want to say, managing the clinical side of things with patients, but also the business side of things, as it being a private business. And on top of that, family with children, your marriage, all the things, right?
Right.
And then on top of that, any other organization you're a part of, like all the different plates of life, we all got to keep them spinning.
Right.
And we don't want any of those important plates crashing and burning, right? So it's common for us to run hard. I think it's very common in chiropractic for chiropractors to run hard. They pour so much. We're in an industry of pouring into others. We pour into our patients. We pour into everybody around us. And burnout, I feel like you said, can happen to any one of us at any time.
Absolutely.
In that process.
And usually when you are burned out, it's because you have poured out so much that you don't have anything left to pour out. Your cup is no longer runneth over. It is bone dry empty. And, you and I were talking yesterday about this before we recorded this episode. And really, first and foremost way of checking yourself is to ask yourself, what have I done to fill that cup back up? Because if you have nothing to give, you got nothing to give. And anything that you do give is going to be crumbs compared to what you should be giving your patients every single time that they come to your office.
So I think not everybody, but there are multiple ways to look at burnout. Right? If I ask you that question, paint that picture for me. Hey, Dr. Ford, I'm feeling burnt out in practice. When I ask you, what is burnout to you? Describe that feeling. Describe what that is like for somebody in private practice to be burnt out.
So having gone through this, like I said, a couple of times, and even once a mild case here recently, to me, it's you've fallen out of love with what you're doing. Number one, loving chiropractic, but then number two, loving your patients, loving your staff, loving your family, because like you said, we've got external to the office factors coming into play. And beneath all that too is also a lack of gratitude for where you're at. Some of us, we all work super hard to get to where we want to be, that we oftentimes forget to be thankful for where we are. because of where we've come from. And, when you're early in your career and you're starting out small and you don't have a whole lot to be thankful for yet, well, the fact that you're actually on this course is something in and of itself to be thankful for, that you found chiropractic and that patients are finding you and that they're getting good results, and that, you're helping people get health that they would otherwise be lost.
You had a good point there with losing some of that gratitude and being grateful for what you've got. I've heard it said, if you can't be happy with a little, you'll never be happy with a lot.
Absolutely.
In life. Would you say that's the same thing with gratitude, like just being thankful and grateful for what you've been blessed with, even if it's something quite small comparatively speaking?
Mm-hmm.
Would you see that being the same struggle for being having that attitude of gratitude towards having a lot more?
For sure. The further along you get in practice and the more and more that your practice grows, you're just going to continue to encounter hard things. You go from one level of business to another level of business. Well, there's just another level of responsibility. I've always liked the quote of choose your hard. All of life is hard. Doesn't matter what we're talking about. Marriage is hard, but you know what? Divorce is hard too. Pick your hard.
Right. New demon, right?
Absolutely. You have a small practice, it's hard. You go to a higher level practice where you're managing more employees and more patients and maybe associate doctors. That's hard too. Pick your hard.
Sure.
So to be able to be thankful in that small, well, it's expected to carry that on when it's large, and then vice versa as well.
That starts to uncover that feeling of burnout, being very much in the realm of like, where's your headspace?
Absolutely.
Where's your thoughts? Where's your head at in terms of getting burnt out or preventing burnout? I see burnout being like a double-edged sword. There's kind of that physical component, and then there's the mental component.
Right.
Right? So you've been in practice. You run a great practice with your wife and your team. Give me some examples of physical ways that people are getting burnt out that you've seen, either in your own life, but also all the doctors that you've mentored along the way, colleagues that how are people setting themselves up to physically get burnt out?
So we kind of touched on it in the beginning here when we talked about, have you been pouring back into yourself with either some quiet time?
You're getting into the mental stuff.
Okay.
First,
let's rewind then.
It's okay. No. First, let's unpack the physical, because that's easier. It's easier for a lot of us in the field to be able to get our heads wrapped around and to understand, like, okay, maybe I don't have my ducks in a row within my practice.
Okay.
Managing team.
Right.
Is your team trained well? Do they work as a team well? Do they keep stress levels low within the practice? Do they have a lot of drama going on every day, or are they smooth operating, well-oiled machine? A well-oiled machine is less likely to get burnt out. But
True.
A machine that's cranking with a lot of friction day in and day out, well, it's easy to create heat when you got friction all the time.
Absolutely.
So I feel like we all need to make sure that we put the right steps and systems and protocols in place with the practice.
Absolutely.
How is your practice running physically, right? So what comes to mind when I think physical? One of the things I think of is team. How is our team trained? How well do they work together? What kind of things pop in your mind for that?
All right, so Dave Ramsey has a quote that Dr. Candy really loves, and I'm going to paraphrase it here. but he says investing in your team and then expecting a result out of them is not micromanaging, it's training. If your team is not trained to do what you need them to do, whose fault is it? You, the boss. But when you do put in that effort and you do put in that training, you can expect help, and you should expect help. Part of that leads me into the second part is, are there clearly defined expectations of what your staff should be doing? It's like in a marriage, if I expect my wife to do something for me but never actually verbalize that to her and she doesn't do it, whose fault is it?
Yeah, we got to have those clear expectations.
So having clear expectations of what each staff member does, if you have multiple folks in the office as your assistants, is paramount, and then holding them to that standard, and also keeping a pulse on the culture of your office, because if everybody's doing their job but everybody's doing it with a poor attitude, you got a bad culture in place, and a bad culture will always trump the procedures. Just going back to an attitude of gratitude, if you're doing X, Y, and Z but you're not doing it with the right mindset and mentality, well, you're not going to produce as good a fruit. And trying not to get into the mental side of it yet, but that's definitely part of making sure that everything is running as a well-oiled machine, like you alluded to.
Yeah, and you almost can't help but get into that headspace, the mental side of things when it comes to burning out, because it's a feeling. Mm-hmm. When you feel burnt out, it's feeling.
Right.
And I would say most chiropractors that I've met or gotten to know over the years are very much easily running themselves into the ground physically. Like, they don't take enough time off. They don't take the time to recharge often enough. They allow themselves to just go for the sake of their business, sake of the clinic, and want that desire deep down to serve and to pour into others. I know when I was first in practice, my wife and I went about 8 to 10 years before we took a vacation. Mm-hmm. And in hindsight, that was terrible.
Horrible idea.
Us. You want to talk about burned out, right?
Right.
And so I had to learn that lesson the hard way. I think one of the greatest things that we could all learn from each other is schedule your time away.
Absolutely.
Do you guys do that? You have a set schedule
Absolutely.
for that?
Well, and if not a bona fide vacation, we do schedule one day about every 6 to 8 weeks where it's our day. You know, if you want to put it on a Monday, the end of the week, whatever kind of floats your boat, your practice is not going to tank because you took one day off every quarter. Right?
And it's not an unexpected day.
Right.
I think that's the key for you guys. It's planned.
Yes.
Yeah, you've looked at the schedule ahead of time. Did you learn that frequency of day off? Just you nailed it the first time? Was that an evolutionary thing? Like you tried this, tried that, and found that's your sweet spot?
I think we kind of tried, well, let's do it once every other month, see how that works. And then we did it a little more frequently, and we just kind of found that, every 2 months seems to work pretty well.
Yeah.
Because, oftentimes there's either a national holiday or something like that. So you kind of get that day off anyway. And we're not doing it in addition to that, but you definitely have to set it aside where it's not another day to catch up on work, right? Don't do more work on your day off, right? That's not the point. The point is to do something to recharge your batteries so that you're ready to be passionate the day that you come back.
Yeah, that's a good point. It wouldn't do much good to take that day off and then just work on the back end of the business all day. utilizing that day to actually recharge.
Right.
So figuring out what that looks like for each person is going to be different.
And something that might need to happen in your clinic is that you need to get a staff that can facilitate that. I think a lot of times with physical burnout is that, like you said, we're doing too much, but we're also wearing too many hats, you know. And I'm not going to lie, there's some things in the office that my CAs are excellent at. They get excited about doing it that I have zero excitement about doing. And so putting that in somebody else's wheelhouse and taking my hands off of it, that takes a whole lot of pressure off of me, takes a whole lot of stress off of me. So if you're listening right now and you know that there are parts of managing your office that you're not good at, you need to find somebody that is, and somebody that's passionate about those things, somebody with a different personality than what you have that's going to take that over to free your mentality up to go back to doing what you love.
Yeah, I agree. Trying to minimize those tasks that just will lead you to burnout.
Yeah,
they just weigh you down.
Bring you down, bring you down, bring you down.
Keep the things that you get excited about the most.
Exactly.
Prevalent in your routine.
I mean, they always say do what you love, and that's why most of us got into chiropractic, is because we loved chiropractic, but then all of the the management and business side of things piled on. Well, we don't get to do a whole lot of chiropractic anymore. Well, hire a team that can help you get back to doing what it is that you love.
Yep. And there's going to be a lot of effort. I think we should all realize that as business owners, the lead, a doctor role in the clinic, you're going to have to put that effort into training the team, to develop the team, to get them to be to that standard. Right. They can't just walk in on day one and understand that type of concept, or that is their role.
And I know a lot of listeners right now might be in those early seasons of practice where you're thinking to yourself, oh yeah, that's great, Dr. Ford. I don't have enough money to hire a staff. I would encourage you to pick up a book called Who Not How. And really the essence of the book is, don't ask the question of how can I get this accomplished? The question you should be asking is, who can get this accomplished for me so that I can do more of what I'm good at doing? And so to put it in perspective, the only person in the office that can bring in income, if all you're doing is adjustments, let's just theorize this, a hypothesis here. If you're only doing adjustments and that's your only source of income, you, the doctor, is the only person capable of doing that legally. So doesn't it make sense to have somebody else taking over more of the things that anybody can do, so that you as the doctor are able to do more of what only you can do?
Absolutely. That's smart biz, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a walk of faith.
So I think we also need to make sure that we've talked about something that you had brought up a while back, and I just remember how important that would be in terms of burnout, is evaluating ourselves, like where our headspace is at. And if somebody hits burnout doing chiropractic, now I think we could argue the vast majority of chiropractors out there, they love chiropractic, right? You and I are passionate about chiropractic. We love the industry we're in. Like, this is such an awesome profession. We get to see miracles happen every day. We get to develop relationships with our patients, and really it's so much greater than any other healthcare profession that I'm aware of.
Absolutely.
Yet we can hit burnout. So if burnout is a feeling, and you alluded to having to making sure your cup is full. How you going to pour out into others with an empty cup?
Right.
Let's talk about the importance of a daily routine for keeping yourself at a level that prevents burnout. Because you could show up to the clinic with a great team but still hit burnout if your daily routine is trash.
Absolutely.
So, clinic is busy.
Mm-hmm.
Once you walk through that door and it's game time, your mind ramps up and it's going 100 miles an hour. You're making clinical decisions. You're managing team. You're doing all these things, and your brain is working harder than most people realize.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do to help keep the balance of the mind? What in your daily routine have you found to be super helpful in keeping that balance of offsetting the speed and chaos of everyday practice?
So I would say that one of the first things you've got to do is when you leave the office, you leave the office. Don't take burdens home with you. It's just like I used to be a baseball coach for a little high school baseball team. And it's like when you step foot onto that field, everything else about the day just sort of disappears. And all that's left is the diamond and the grass and the pitching mound and the bleachers and the dugouts. It's baseball. It's kind of the same thing when you're leaving the office. And when you leave the office, it's behind you. There's nothing else. Go home to your family with none of that burden on your shoulders. Leave it there. And if you got to take 15 minutes before you leave for a little bit of quiet time, or maybe do a devotional at the end of the day, or just something to decompress, do your affirmations at the end of the day. If it was a rough day, remind yourself that you are a great chiropractor and that you're getting better and better every single day, and that you love your patients and you love your city and you love your staff. Say all of that out loud at the end of the day in order to take it off of you and leave it at the office. Likewise, you can't walk into the office with anything external. If you woke up and it was raining outside and your toast burned in the toaster, it doesn't matter. You had a family member get sick, no matter what it is. Dr. Owen used to talk about a little red wagon at the door. And any of your problems, you leave them in the little red wagon before you cross that threshold, because once you come into the office, it's game face. So I think having that clear distinction of office life and home life, and being able to keep the two in their place and not let them just bleed over into one another is a great thing to do, so that it just doesn't turn into a whirlwind between the two.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. That's difficult at first for me. I found that very tricky at first in practice. And of course, as years go by, you start to realize how valuable being able to do that becomes. That way, when you're at home, you give all of yourself to what's at home. And when you're at the clinic, you can give all of yourself to who's at the clinic. And you're not trying to mash them all up.
Absolutely.
And from my perspective, I also see preventing burnout for me is going to come with preparation for the day.
Mm-hmm.
So if I just wake up late, jump in the shower quick, throw some clothes on, run to the clinic just in time to start my day, and have not given it any pre-thought, have not had any quiet time, have not had any thought about what's going to be accomplished in my day. How's it going to go? What do I need to do? Start really putting together my day.
Mm-hmm.
They are two very different days. One is going to be more as I expected, which is more on point, more on purpose, and the other is going to be more chaotic.
Absolutely.
And the chaotic,
thrown
unexpected, thrown together, I feel would lead to burnout way faster.
Because who likes chaos? nobody truly loves chaos. We like order. And like you're saying, taking that time to put expectations on the day and pre-visualize how that new patient's going to go, and that it's going to go well, and that these people are going to accept care, and putting that demand on innate as well is going to help direct how the day goes. How things starts is how it goes.
Yeah. So I feel that many of us don't put enough emphasis and importance on the beginning of a day.
Starting it right.
What it looks like before practice, what it looks like before you even leave the house to head to the clinic. And if we would all value that and realize its importance in how it influences the day, then we would make sure that that's in our daily routine.
Mm-hmm.
That we have some of that pre-thought and that quiet time heading into the day. It's going to offset the speed of the day. It's going to offset the mental energy that we have to expend day in and day out taking care of patients. And when you start to find that balance of the energies, like the mental fast pace of clinic, and you offset that with some calm, some quiet, some like peace of yourself in your mind at the beginning of the day, well, then you find that balance.
Right.
And the balance, the scales don't tip into chaos. They don't tip into burnout quite so easy. And then on top of that, having scheduled days out, like you said.
Right.
For you guys, you said about every 8 weeks.
Yeah.
I know some colleagues that they require more than that.
Absolutely.
They're scheduling a day or two every 4 weeks, like once a month, just to have that balance. I think you have to understand it looks different for everybody.
Absolutely.
Everybody listening to this, I don't want them to try to force themselves into the cookie cutter of what you're talking about.
Right.
Their needs to prevent burnout may not look exactly like mine or yours, but to understand, you got to find that balance for yourself. How many days off do I need?
Right.
To have that balance?
And like you said,
and how many days does it take?
Schedule it.
Schedule.
You got it. If it's not on the schedule, it doesn't happen. It's just like a goal. Until it's written down, it's just a wish. And so you have to make it into a reality. And talking about routine, schedule your routine. I get up at this time every day. It takes me this long to get ready. I have my breakfast, and this is how long that takes. It's all a schedule. Nothing happens by chance. If you begin to bring order to your day, the rest of your day will be ordered.
I love that. Well, I can tell you it has been a pleasure talking to you about this stuff. Is there anything else you want to leave people with today?
Just in thinking about burnout before we recorded today, the biggest thing that came to me was a lack of harmony. And it's that you've fallen out of balance, like we talked about. Are you burned out, or are you really just out of line? Thinking about this like chiropractors, we need that adjustment. You need to bring correction so that there is that flow of innate again. And it's when your life is out of that harmony that things don't go well. Nothing's synchronizing with one another. Nothing is, when an engine starts shaking, what's wrong? It's missing a harmonic balance, or it brings balance to everything. So I don't think burnout is a place of no return. You just need an adjustment. Just small corrections, but they're important.
I would agree. Well, I hope this is helpful for some that have reached burnout, or maybe they're sitting in burnout right now, or they've been through it and they're like, hey, how can I prevent this from becoming a cyclical problem over and over? I know that it's been fun unpacking that with you for my own sake, making sure that I'm not allowing myself to get into burnout. How good am I to patients feeling burnt out?
not much good at all.
Not much good at all. And I know you and I are not in practice to not do any good.
Right.
We're there to give the best that we can.
Every time.
I love that. All right. Well, I hope I get to see you again here on this podcast.
Absolutely.
I'd like to get into some
fun.
other topics with you.
For sure.
Thanks for your insight. Thanks for your knowledge and all the years of practice going into it. So, thanks.
Absolutely. Y'all have a wonderful day.